With a major selection of the looks your kiddos love starting at just $4 in the Walmart app, a new school year means a stylish new them. Who knew? Find skater skirts and Crocs that say, I'm casual but cool. Sparkly sneakers that say, it's my classroom, you're just learning in it. And preppy polos that say, I'm the teacher's pet, even if they're mommy's menace at home. Find their favorite styles starting at just $4 in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new.
Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. But luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku. And it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
At 4 minutes after the hour, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us once again on the Dr. Sky Experience here on Talk Radio 77 WABC. Ladies and gentlemen, we thank you no matter where you're listening or to be calling us from around the nation, the world, and ladies and gentlemen, the powerful signal of Talk Radio 77 WABC, I'm pretty confident, is beamed way out into the cosmos. We love this particular radio show. Yes, you tell us you like it. And if you have any questions or comments, my email is simply this, drsky@wabcradio.com. And there are 4 types of conversation. We talk about them often: debate, discourse, diatribe, and dialogue. And on this particular show, the Dr. Sky Experience, we prefer dialogue and critical thinking. And in order to get involved in our conversation, we want to see you call us at 1-800-848-9222. That's 1-800-848-9222. Ladies and gentlemen, you can also listen to the Dr. Sky Experience archive by simply going to wabcradio.com, or equally important, redappleaudionetworks.com. Well, you'll find there a plethora of content from all of the great hosts on this powerhouse radio station, 77 WABC. And special thanks always to our helmsmen, Tony and Bill, that navigate this incredible signal of 77 WABC to the nation, the world, and out to the cosmos. Hope you're enjoying your weekend as we continue to move into the early portion of September 2025. Lots of things happening, ladies and gentlemen. And a repeat guest that we're so honored to have is Patrick Wood. He's a gentleman with a big, great website called Technocracy.news, and he talks about so many wonderful topics. But one of the subjects that I'm sure he would agree, he's spoken about it many times, is a statement that I'll go about and just mention. You will own nothing and you will be happy. What's this all about? He talks about technocracy and transhumanism, but let's define technocracy. That's government or control of society by an elite group of technical experts. What's transhumanism? Very hard to sound, very hard to spell, maybe for many. It's a philosophy, a movement, which advocates enhancement of humanity through AI to overcome biological limitations and combating aging to achieve something called immortality. Who's Patrick Wood of Technocracy.news? Patrick Wood is a leading and critical expert on sustainable development, green economy, Agenda 21, and Agenda 2030, and historic technocracy. He's the author of Technocracy, The Hard Road to World Order, Technocracy Rising, the Trojan Horse of Global Transformation, and co-author of Trilateralists over Washington, Volumes 1 and 2. Wood remains a leading expert on the elitist Trilateral Commission, their policies and achievements in creating self-proclaimed new international economic order, which is the essence, in his opinion, of sustainable development on a global scale. An economist by education, a financial analyst, and a writer by profession, and an American constitutionalist by choice, Wood maintains a biblical worldview and has deep historical insights into the modern attacks on sovereignty, property rights, and personal freedoms. With that, let's welcome our very special guest, Patrick Wood. Good evening to you on the West Coast. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Steve. Thank you for the kind introduction.
Well, thank you, Patrick, and to all the listeners around the nation and the world. You know, many people, as they watch or read the news, and obviously not everybody believes everything they read or see, and maybe legacy and many describe downstream media. There are so many subjects that are near and dear to all of us, ladies and gentlemen. I made the statement before in a quote that you often repeat. You will own nothing, and you will be happy. A very interesting conversation we're about to have, ladies and gentlemen, for the 2-hour period here. Again, your questions and comments, we'll refer that in the form of dialogue with Critical Thinking, but we'll give out that number, and proud to say it, 1-800-848-9222. Patrick, let's begin and have a conversation about something that's near and dear to so many people, and particularly maybe people in major cities like New York and other major cities, about the rising cost of electricity. And many people are kind of miffed as to why this is happening. Please tell us about this. You write about this in technocracy.news.
Exactly. So I do write about it because this is a byproduct of the AI revolution. Everybody's aware at this point of all these ginormous data centers that are being constructed all around the country. They eat electricity like there's no tomorrow. They're basically sucking the grid dry. And what's happening is the rise in energy prices just into the stratosphere. It's amazing that some areas have had 75% increases of energy power or bills, even in the last 2 years. Just absolutely amazing. Staggering. And it's going to get worse at this point because there's no end in sight. A lot of these data centers aren't even completed yet. And when they start to draw power, you're going to see energy prices going higher.
It's amazing. And quoting, of course, from your article here that you put out at technocracy.news, headline is, "Why are household electricity bills soaring?" And you just described, ask AI. But more to the point, let's talk more specifically about many of our listeners, of course, on our home base, New York City, the tri-state area, New Jersey residents, as you describe here, whose 13.3% bill increase was the third highest in the U.S. and can perhaps draw some comfort from New York, faring worse where bills surged 14.4%. And that is amazing, Patrick, just to hear. I know here in Arizona, we see, increases. Everybody's concerned about it. But describe these data centers. How much are they drawing? In other words, you would think just the opposite, and maybe I'm a dreamer, that all these big data centers would want to kind of distribute some of that, usage that they're doing and say, look, we don't want to pulverize the general public out there, but they become the problem in your opinion, and it's a serious one. Continue.
It is, and
it's amazing.
It appears that there's no concern for the consumers of electricity around the world, around our country. That's unfortunate because we never asked for this in the first place. We didn't ask for these AI data centers. We didn't ask for AI to be controlling our lives, but nevertheless, we're suffering under it. One major data center, actually there's several of them at this point, but one major data center is slated to consume 1 megawatt of power. That's so much power. It's enough to power a mid-sized city.
Yes,
incredible.
It is.
There's one data center being built in Wyoming right now. Wyoming doesn't have a large population, but nevertheless, this data center, when it's all done, is going to consume more power than the rest of the state combined.
That's amazing, Patrick. And, I'm reading into this deeper, too, doing a lot of homework for these particular iterations here on episodes of the Dr. Sky Experience. We find out that that's a major campaign issue in the gubernatorial election, I gather, that's coming up in New Jersey. And I would imagine to the people out there that are listening, not only around the world, but more specifically back at home base, the New York metro area. I wonder what your response to this is, ladies and gentlemen. 1-800-848-9222, of course, as we continue to talk with our special guest, our go-to guy, Patrick Wood of technocracy.news. That's amazing. I mean, I've noticed an increase here in Arizona. We obviously see things go up. They rarely ever go down. And we see a lot of these corporation commission meetings where even out here in Arizona, they vote on the big changes, the percentages. And we have 2 electric companies out here primarily in the Phoenix market. And I'm sure in the major cities around the nation and around the world, particularly the United States, obviously a big concern to people out there. So again, not just the electric pricing going up for the, each individual home, Look at all the additional electric vehicles, the EV vehicles that are also here now. The simple thing is, describe this. We really cannot sustain this kind of, usage of electricity because our infrastructure really doesn't have that capability right now, aside from the fact the AI centers are sucking up more of that energy, correct?
Exactly so. And, the EV market at this point is cooled off a lot because of rising energy prices. And I think it's going to continue to cool. The tax rebates, I think, are going to be going away soon. And a lot of people are questioning, do they really want these EVs in the first place? So, but nevertheless, they are competition to the data centers at this point.
Yes.
Who just can't get enough energy, electricity, and I think some people will conclude that their EV basically looks like a glorified golf cart.
Wow, Patrick, you bring it to the table. 1-800-848-9222. Your commentary, ladies and gentlemen, as we continue with our go-to guy, Patrick Wood of Technocracy.news, talking about a plethora of subjects here in our 2-hour edition today and this morning and this evening, wherever you're listening, and hopefully calling us on the Dr. Sky Experience. Patrick, that's something very important here. I mean, just look at the whole thing. The whole American electrical grid, and that's a whole different subject, is really not able to sustain even any kind of critical breakdown. I mean, look at what happened back on the East Coast. I was witness to it when I lived in the New York area. Something happened near Niagara Falls in that area with electrical substations, and the entire New York metro area and other parts of the country went down very quickly in November, I believe. That was 1966. Yes, I'm that old to remember that, but it's quite an amazing story just the same. And, well, let's be positive here. We don't want to always talk about the doom and gloom of things. What do you think people can actually do in this particular situation? I mean, you can say write letters to your congressmen and your governors and all that, but what realistically, from your side, the technical side, what can people really do about all this? Please tell us.
Well, I'll tell you what. You need to educate your city council. The city councils of America. That's where these data centers have to go to apply for a permit in the first place. And if the city council says no, they don't go there. Let me give you an example. Tucson, Arizona, one of the most liberal universities towns in Arizona, certainly. The city council there had an application before them to build a huge data center in their area. It would have consumed lots of water, lots of energy, and there was a public outcry across the city. There was hundreds of people that came to meetings, and they protested and whatever. And you know what? The city council had a unanimous vote not to approve this data center. They told them, go pack it somewhere else.
No, I understand, and it's very interesting. As always, Patrick Wood, you light up the phone lines, and as we move into this iteration of the Dr. Sky Experience, let's say good morning to Bob in Yonkers. Bob, good morning. How much of a concern is this part of the show with the topics mentioned? You're on with Patrick Wood. How are you this morning?
Yes, good morning, Dr. Sky. Mr. Wood, how long does it take for society to build these mini power plants, nuclear power plants?
Well, you think this technology has been around for a long time. They've been experimenting with it. They've never, most companies haven't been able to get a license to sell them. I think now we're going to see some of these data centers getting their hands on that type of technology. It's a wonderful technology, in my opinion. But so far, the energy companies and the powers that be that want to control energy everywhere, that especially the ones that attack fossil fuels, they've been very stingy with this kind of technology for the rest of us. That's the problem. If there are any these nuclear pods that they're about the size of a 40-foot shipping container. They can be buried in the ground, and they produce huge amounts of energy, electricity. Likely, all of those shipments are going to be going to data centers directly. I don't think
Amazing.
we'll see any of it at all.
Bob, this is an important subject here. I mean, have you been affected any way by the things we're talking about so far? I mean, everybody seems to have their electric bill zooming up. How about you? I mean,
Yes.
does this bug you, or am I on schedule with this?
I live in Westchester, in New York State.
Yes, sir.
My bill has gone up a little bit. Not
Mm-hmm.
that much lately, but the rumors is it could go up 11% next year.
Wow. Yeah. I don't know. It's an interesting subject. And people may be wondering, why are we talking this kind of subject with electrical power when we're normally talking about the things that go on in the heavens? And I give a warning here, not that I'm the genius in the whole conversation. Bob and everybody, Patrick and everybody listening, we all realize all weather comes from the sun. And obviously when the sun spurts out, as it did last week, not to be alarmist, another pretty powerful solar flare, the beauty of it is to see the auroras, right, Bob? You can see those in many outer-lying regions. But when we have these direct events that hit the group, the power grids, my whole point is not just in the United States. We really need to do something to secure, at best, the power grid of this nation. Because let's say this, nefarious actors and bad actors that want to help destroy that. This happened on a whole different subject out near San Jose not too long ago. Allegedly, some people, maybe you and we might describe them as, terrorists or something, came across one of these substations in the San Jose area, and they shot it up with AK-47s and destroyed it. That whole event took out power for such a large area. So what I'm saying is, it's vulnerable, but it's a whole nother topic like that. Bob, you get the last word, and thanks for being part of the Dr. Sky experience.
Dr. Sky, I just want to say one more thing, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
You should be on five days a week.
Well, you're a sweetheart and a good guy in that way. You're awesome, brother. But like I said, I'm grateful for the time that they give us. But, maybe you can send your cards, letters, and emails on that very subject, and I appreciate your time. You have a good weekend, Bob. Thank you. Let's say good morning to Richie in Putnam County. You're on with Patrick Wood. How are you this morning?
Oh, gentlemen, awesome show. You guys have two of the best first names. Let's look at it, the whole picture. Let's look at the broad picture here. We talk about AI, electrical, power, lighting everything up, power. You guys have to realize the third world is going to be in charge of the country. AI ain't going to destroy this country. The third world's going to destroy it. But the power grid and everything, we can get power from Canada. They can bring it down here. We could build it here. We have all the technology available to us, just that we are now becoming a third world country. And because of the 65 Immigration Act, which nobody talks about, you see what's happening in New York City and Minneapolis, and it's all over the country. California's done, and they have power problems. They have water problems. That's a third world country. That's not America anymore. And the thing I'm saying is, we have the technology to build these plants over, what you want to call it, mini generator plants, mini nuclear plants, mini coal power, clean burning coal plants. We have the whole thing we could build, but no longer, because we are a third world country, guys. And
you said it, Richie.
Don't worry about it.
No, you said it. And let me add this before I want Patrick to respond, but let me just say this, Richie. This is interesting. I did some research on this, and a lot of the power substation generators are not even manufactured in the United States anymore. And that's obviously what President, Donald John Trump wants to do, and see more manufacturing here. Wouldn't you think, ladies and gentlemen, that this is a really critical thing? Because I don't care how you have a likability or dislike for EVs. Can you imagine if you have no way to generate power at all, your EV is good as a red brick, and you all know the whole rest of the story. But Patrick, you go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't want to cut your commentary.
Well, I would point out you made a good point that much of the replacement parts are made outside of the United States. This is a huge risk to us for sure. But even at that point, there's two types of what are they? Not condensers, but the power station.
Yes.
Trying to think of the name. I just slipped it all of a sudden.
Right.
But transformers. That's what I'm thinking about. The transformers at this point are not available in most areas around the country. Some are on like 2 or 3 month delay to get them in. Mm-hmm. And the general consensus is now that there's like a 30% that deficit of these units being in the United States right now. So,
right, you can't keep up with the demand. I mean, it's just amazing. But again, when they're made mostly in China, and look at the whole problematic thing of, let's say if you needed these tomorrow, and again, I don't have the facts and figures 100% here. That's something I'm not an expert in. But doing enough research on this, you're the expert in our way, as the guest here who talks about technocracy.news and these subjects. But Richie, you get the last word before we go to the break. I appreciate you, and I don't know, these are great subjects to talk about, but you have the last word here for a moment.
Okay, the audience appreciates when you say last word to the caller. That's tremendous. Many hosts don't do that. Okay, because of open borders, every enemy of America has their people in here, and we've manufactured so much of it, stuff that we need overseas, so we're relying on these foreign countries. We have to realize the bigger the country gets population-wise because of the 65 Act, the government will get bigger, the demand for power will get bigger, and the water will get bigger. But the third world will be absolutely taking over the country. People, your grandchildren will be bowing to Mandani and Cortez and Omar.
Well, Richie, let's hope and pray to God, and we certainly have that feeling that we need to do things. And I know this particular radio station, I need not remind the listeners, obviously believes in truth, justice, and the American way. So, Richie in Putnam County, I hope you'll continue to join us on the Dr. Sky Experience, and I hope you have an even better weekend. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate your time. Let's say good morning to Tony in New Jersey. Tony, you're on with our great friend Patrick Wood of technocracy.news. How are you this morning?
Good morning. I'm really glad you guys are talking about this topic because many of us have gotten hit with huge electric bill increases in New Jersey. And I was thinking about this because I took a lot of time and I said, it really hit us a lot this year more than 21, 22. And I was looking at a very interesting article. And the article talked about in 22 how they said two things that happened will continue to affect the rise in our energy costs. And these were two deliberate things that were done by, we could say, the government, who manipulated two things: the energy usage because of putting us in COVID lockdown, and the other was the energy source, and they stopped our fossil fuel and just stopped all our energy and our economy in those industries. Those two things, make me think how, deliberate and how much damage a government who is, on such a trajectory that can ruin a country. And we really left ourselves open for that. We stayed in the lockdown now we're just looking at all the things that happened. So I just wanted your thoughts on that, and thanks for being
No, thanks for being part of the show, as you are regularly, and we appreciate you on the Dr. Sky Experience. Let's now move it over and turn it over to Patrick as we approach, in a few moments, the hard break. Patrick, very interesting callers here. You can see that they're electrified without, no pun intended there, about these subjects. But I wanted to get some response before you respond here, very quickly, to the people that are in, let's say, the New York, New Jersey market. Connecticut, let's say. The particular subject we're talking about, this has become the electric issue. Pricing, I believe, has become an issue for the governor's race in New Jersey, as well as it should be. But, Patrick, your response to Tony.
That's what can you say? It's sad that this is happening. It's real, and it's going to get worse, probably, until it gets better. Mm-hmm. But I heard a statistic from a video that I watched about a guy complaining about his power bill in New Jersey, of all places. He made the statement, I can't verify it necessarily, but he said there's 88,000 people's electric has been shut off because of the rise in power consumption.
Yeah, terrible.
And this one, because utilities don't care about you. If you don't pay your bill, that's it. You're not going to get your power out back until you pay the bill. They just no mercy. Just no.
Well, Patrick,
no
our good friend Richard Dugan, who we hear on this radio show, a good friend of mine, and also a talk radio host himself, he calls me all the time, and he says to me, the wind is kicking up. He's in the Santa Barbara area, a beautiful area along the coast. And he says when the wind kicks up, we get these power outages more than not. And I'm imagining, wow, if you have a family or like you're just a single person and you have things in your trusty refrigerator, how long before you have to go out and petition the state to say, look, you just ruined all my food. Everything's melted and everything's spoiled. I mean, you're right. This is a very serious topic and among many that you talk about because, again, technocracy.news is the website, ladies and gentlemen, for Patrick Wood. And you're a regular, here on the show. And I appreciate what you do, Patrick, because, there's so many subjects that we want to talk about here as we go to the bottom of the hour here, part of hour number 1. The number, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't gotten on here and you have concerns or questions, we've only begun to touch the tip of the iceberg here. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Patrick, this is fascinating. When we come back, I want to shift gears with your okay. And I want to start talking about Peter Thiel and a little bit of interesting information here. I've understood that he's trying to set up a seminar on talking about the Antichrist, and we have to define him when we come back and talk about what you know about this interesting topic, a person that's very much involved in the technocracy world today. You're listening to me, Steve Cates. That is the Dr. Sky Experience here on Talk Radio 77 WABC. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. So don't touch that dial. We've got so much more to share with you and hear what you have to say in the form of dialogue and obviously critical thinking. We'll be right back.
The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dr. Sky Experience. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
31 minutes after the hour, ladies and gentlemen, the great Lloyd Lindsay Young. We thank him. A very interesting man that I'm sure needs no reminder by anybody in the New York metro area. Knew him and a very interesting person indeed, ladies and gentlemen. Our special guest, Patrick Wood of technocracy.news, continues. Patrick, this is fascinating. I wanted you to jump onto the subject of Peter Thiel and what you know about him conducting, if I have it right, if I don't, just to straighten me out here, a whole big seminar he's doing coming up on the whole story of the Antichrist. What does that have to do with that subject with him? That's amazing.
It's pretty interesting, isn't it? Yes, Peter Thiel is talking about the Antichrist, and not about Jesus Christ, but about the Antichrist. He's I think he's pretty confused even now, but he's giving a 4-session whatever you call a seminar at an organization in the Bay Area. It's called the Acts 17 Collective. And I have an offer to watch it. I'm not probably going to watch it. I don't want to get my mind polluted, but it's going to be interesting to hear after he talks what he's thinking about.
Well, tell us who Peter is in a definition, because many people may be scratching their heads going, "Who is this guy?"
Peter Thiel is the founder of PayPal. He's kind of the guy that set the tone for Silicon Valley in many areas, and he was part of that original crowd, Elon Musk and David Sachs, that were founders of PayPal. They moved on from there, but Peter Thiel started a company called Palantir. It's now emerged to be the dominant, absolute dominant force in intelligence, military intelligence, and as well as situational intelligence. They call it business intelligence in America. It's dystopian. He's secured so many government contracts it just makes your head spin. Mm-hmm. He's getting them by the billions of dollars at this point. So he's a very powerful figure in this whole tech world at this point. He's a tech.
Well, you're so right. I mean, his company goes deep into the government, FBI, IRS, CDC, Securities and Exchange Commission. It just goes on, which I'm not passing judgment on the guy. I'm just trying to say, wow.
Yeah.
Here's people that have such an interest in this world, in the world of what we talk about with you, technocracy,
Yeah.
And that is amazing. But Patrick Wood, a fact, and it's not fiction, is that you're lighting up the phone lines here. So let's continue on and say good morning to Steve in our home state of Arizona. Steve, good morning. You're on with Patrick Wood. How are you this evening? And I guess we don't have Steve.
Bummer.
Okay. Well, I want to continue on with you, Patrick, on this subject. And please call back, ladies and gentlemen, to 1-800-848-9222, because the importance of what everybody has to say, believe me, ladies and gentlemen, it knocks it out of the park here. But that's an interesting subject. I mean, these whole subject matters that we talk about here with you, about transhumanism, technocracy, and describe where this whole concept of the statement, you will own nothing and be happy, where does that come from? And I know it sounds ridiculous when many people hear it and go, what, are you kidding me? I'm not going to not own nothing, and I'm certainly not going to be happy. Where does this whole thing come from? And it's serious.
Well, it came from the World Economic Forum several years ago. Klaus Schwab was the guy that kind of popularized it, and it was kind of an off-the-wall statement at that time. Nobody understood what he was talking about. But now we see more clearly that this whole business of home ownership is gone the way of the dodo bird, and we're becoming a nation of renters at this point. And what can you say that what he was predicting by 2030. That you will own nothing. Well, somebody has to own everything, right?
Oh, that's the whole point. Who are the somebodies that own everything?
Well, exactly. The original technocrats in 1932 at Columbia University who invented this economic system in the first place, they said there was no point of private property at all, and they were going to take all private property and put it into like a common trust for the public good, if you will. And they were going to be dispensers of all the assets that came out of that, the products that were manufactured and so on. Well, this is the same idea today, that this whole business of them owning everything, us owning nothing. Well, it is, this is exactly what they said. There's lots of people came out in favor of it at that point when he said it. And they said, we're going to rent everything. We don't have to be worried about maintaining everything, and we'll just rent what we need, and we'll all be happy. Well, that's dystopia.
We're not going to be happy, and we'll say it loud and proud. We are not going to be happy because, let me say this, if you work, ladies and gentlemen, as you do, and you want to build a better life for yourself and your family, this is really outrageous because it's simple, and I'm not that important in the world to make the change. That's why we have great guests like you and other people in their areas of expertise. But here we go. Here in Arizona, I'm just using this as an example, here in the Phoenix metro area, I have never seen, as you know, Patrick, you and I are fairly close in distance, and we know each other from a long time ago. But I've never seen more areas that had homes that had maybe a quarter acre, just these beautiful little homes that had nice manicured lawns. People worked hard to maintain them. Now you see these large stack and pack apartment buildings in which the price, I don't even know how people can afford it. I mean, let's say you're a young student in college and you can't live on campus. How do they afford $2,000, $3,000? And maybe in big cities, obviously, what do you think New York would be? $5,000 for a studio per month. My whole point is this. That really goes to the theme of you will own nothing and be happy because it's all a rental-based mentality. But doesn't it seem that many of the younger people like that lifestyle? I mean, I'm not knocking the people. Maybe they like that lifestyle because they never knew what the ability was to grow $1, and maybe they were never taught how to grow $1, right?
Exactly. Yeah. There was a time 50 years ago, 40 years ago, where we surveyed the small business community in America. It was made up by, small businesses. Maybe they had one person hired or 15, but nevertheless, all of those small businesses started with the equity in people's homes.
Exactly.
That's how they got started.
Yeah.
And, they grew. Maybe they paid off the debt. They didn't have to necessarily give their house away, but that's how all these small businesses started in the first place. And back
You're exactly right.
80% of the employed base in America work for those types of small businesses, right?
Yeah,
this is
right.
Not the case today, for sure.
I know, but I wonder how many people really care about this change. And we can't blame a lot of people, too. You know why? We're so busy trying to keep our head above water, and obviously many people are still struggling out there, bless them. But the truth of the matter is, that's why we do shows like this with you.
Yes.
And obviously you're lighting up the phone lines here like a big Roman candle. Let's say good morning to Lauren in New Jersey. Lauren, you're on with our special guest, Patrick Wood. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much, and I really appreciate both of you gentlemen. You know so much, and it's wonderful that you share so much with us. I'm wondering what your opinions are on the subject you're speaking of, and the appearance and the following now of 3I Atlas and the pulse that was detected in approximately 1977, I believe, and we couldn't identify what it was, and it was kind of squashed. But now they're seeing that that pulse is what they're getting off of this 3I Atlas, and they're seeing now that it has artificial lights. And so I'll be quiet and listen.
No, Lauren, stay with us for a minute.
Yeah.
Let me explain this. It's a little off our subject, but no, that's why we do the Dr. Sky experience, and that's it. Patrick, if you don't mind, I'm going to just go off on the other subject here just for a moment to answer Lauren's concerns.
Go for it. I'm following you. I want to listen to you.
No, thank you. Atlas, as we talk about 3I, which means Interstellar 2025 Atlas, is an interesting comet that was discovered in Chile by this great, what I call a big computer telescope. It discovered it back in July. So, Lauren, this is interesting, and everybody who's concerned about this. Again, many in the media take off on this subject, and I think they get it wrong. But from astronomy, we've only had 3 so-called interstellar comets come through the solar system, meaning that they're from another star system. The first was back in 2017, when a good friend of mine, Dr. Robert Wyrick, out there in Haleakala Observatory in Hawaii, discovered Oumuamua, which in Hawaiian actually means the scout. And that was an object that was strange. It looked like a pancake. They didn't get good imaging of it. But when it left the solar system, it started to increase in velocity, which comets don't do. They tend to slow down. The second one was called Comet Borisov, which was truly a comet. But here, in the short time we have on this one, Lauren, and I know we'll talk more about it in detail, this particular object was originally thought to be something very strange. They didn't identify it as a comet right away. James Webb Telescope observed it, and it notices that it's pushing out nickel, literally metallic nickel, in the direction where there should be a tail. And you got to respect the guy, Dr. Avi Loeb of Harvard, a very smart man, and we're trying to get him on the show. His whole consensus, Lauren, is that this is truly some sort of an extraterrestrial object moving through the solar system. But I don't know about that. So you get the last word on that, because we're almost up against the break. I know it's a little off the subject, but Lauren, that's why we're here. So you get the last word.
The last word is the latest YouTube app that said that all of our telescopes went down for approximately 20 minutes. There was no operational difficulty detected, and all the telescopes went down. And then when they came back up, they saw that 3I Atlas had changed its direction a bit. So this whole, and you don't hear about this being spoken about, so I'm just wondering whether they're...
Well, Lauren, I'll keep it open for both sides of the conversation. Dr. Avi Loeb thinks he has evidence to show that it's not a cometary object, but I've been observing comets for like 40 years. Not that I'm the best person in the audience on this, but Lauren, I hope you'll call back again. We're going to try to go back on subject, but hey, you are on subject, and I hope you'll call the Dr. Sky Experience again. And Patrick, when we come back from this break, we'll continue on so many of the other topics that I think people should have concerns about. They can read all about you at technocracy.news. You, of course, talking about technocracy, transhumanism, and all other subject matter, ladies and gentlemen, that affect us down here as we walk around on planet number 3 as we spin through this amazing solar system and galaxy. We'll be right back.
The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dr. Sky Experience. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
With artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon. You know all those stories where there's the guy with the pentagram and the holy water, and he's like, yeah, he's sure he can control the demon. Doesn't work out. A quote from none other than Elon Musk as we continue here at 48 minutes after the hour number 1 of the Dr. Sky Experience. If you're just joining us, ladies and gentlemen, our special guest, as we talk to him monthly, is Patrick Wood of Technocracy.news. Great information, and equally important, your contribution to the conversation in the form of dialogue and critical thinking at 1-800-848-9222. Patrick, interesting stories I'd like to move on to. We find out so much about this. We're talking now about police organizations having these special devices where they can run through parking lots and they can actually know much more about you by scanning what? The license plates. Not that we're anti-law enforcement. I spent some time in that world, and I also spent time with the topic you'll talk about these license plate readers. I was almost going to get involved with a company a long time ago, about a decade ago, and not that I was, jumping up and down going, no, I can't stand it. It didn't happen that way, and maybe for the best for me. What's this all about? I mean, people should know about what's happening.
Well, exactly. There's a company that is a startup company that was started, believe it or not, with financing from Peter Thiel and other people, technocrats of his class. Mark Andreessen was another investor of this Flock company. It's called Flock, like a flock of birds. Mm-hmm. And you see these license plate readers on poles with a little a solar panel on the top of the pole, and then just a little camera, not very big, right below it. And they can mount these. They're all wireless. There's no fiber optic or anything else involved. But they can be pointed to the traffic, and they can read all of the license plates that just come zooming by. It's an amazing device, actually, when you consider what it's doing. But the idea is not just to capture your license plate, but also every feature of your car, the make, the model, dents, like stickers on your window, stuff like that.
Amazing.
Where they can build a fingerprint for your car, and you can be picked out then when you move between camera to another camera and another camera. Your route can be traced by these the progression of your snapshots, if you will.
Well, on a lighter note, Patrick, maybe you'd get a little bit of a favorable, scan if you had a Police Benevolent Association sticker in the back window. What do you think?
Maybe so. I don't know.
No, but seriously, this type of technology, I won't bore ladies and gentlemen about my story, but I was in that area and I have to be honest, and I always will be, no other way, that I was involved in in-car video surveillance at one time. Now, please don't dislike me, ladies and gentlemen. I still believe what Patrick is saying. Basically for this, we need to understand what's happening and what are the limitations of the things that we're talking about, or does it go straight off the chart? And what we're going to talk about now, Patrick, you can fill us in. That was just a lead-in with the surveillance with these different cameras. This is older technology, by the way. 10 years ago, I was asked to be part of something, and I chose not to. I was, not because I hated it. But here, the topic that we want to talk about, describe this to the audience. Total information awareness. And it also studies behaviors. This is something very interesting, like prediction of crime capabilities. We're all supporting law enforcement on this radio show. But let's say this. Where do we get to the point where it's now going over? This becomes, a more legal issue. Mm-hmm. And where do we stop it? In other words, where do we have that fine line? It keeps moving back and forth. Hopefully it doesn't become, hey, we're going to do it no matter what. Get used to it. Right?
Exactly. The people that started this company in the first place, the philosophy they adopted was shoot first, ask questions later.
Wow.
And they just did this. They just erected this network across the country, and now people have figured out what it's all about, and they're pushing back like crazy all over the country, because it's not just snapping pictures of violations like you make a right turn where you should make a right turn or whatever, you run a stoplight. It's not taking this picture for a criminal at that point. You're breaking a law. You're going to pay. No, this is taking every single license plate and tracking them, even if you're not a criminal. So people say, well, that's not right, because what if it makes a mistake? What if you get tagged for a crime you weren't anywhere around, or maybe your car was around and they took your picture and said, well, you must be the criminal.
Right.
Well, people are really pushing back at this point. This is a violation of the Fourth Amendment, which says, by the way, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, house, papers, effects on their cars against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, period. And,
right. And again, I want to say, look, supporting law enforcement, I'm not attacking them, and I'm not, nothing's perfect. But the reality is the whole point of this whole conversation, I think the people out there get it, is total information awareness. Where do we draw the line on this kind of stuff? And that's what's important right now. Exactly. Let's see if we can get another phone call in here before the top of the hour, and you've been waiting patiently. Silas in Staten Island, good morning. How are you and your concerns?
Yeah, you've got the perfect subject there.
Thanks.
And I was trying to tell him how a person like Mandami promising everybody everything is how they can keep this. Kathy Hochul wants to keep the cameras up because we can always charge you something. We want to own every piece of property so that you become renters. It was Khrushchev who said, we will hang America and we'll sell them the rope.
And we'll bury you, is another quote. Right.
Right. They're using capitalism to take down capitalism. Can you imagine if Kamala Harris had gotten in? Their plan would work. They get rid of the billionaires. Now, these billionaires who think they're going to be on the winning side, when they take over the J Diamonds and all, believe me, they'll be able to buy property at pennies on the dollar. But then the communists are going to take that from them.
Yeah, you're right, Silas. I mean, it's an interesting subject. I mean, I see what's going on in the New York area, and that, if that individual does become elected mayor of New York, that's a bellwether for everybody else in all these other cities where they would want to go and jump on the bandwagon too. And look, it's something that's very controversial, and we do appreciate you on our show giving us the straight shooting that, I'm agreeing with you, my brother. I thank you so much for calling. Silas in Staten Island, we hope you'll continue to be part of the Dr. Sky experience. Thanks for giving us your thoughts. This is interesting, Patrick. In hour number 2, we have so many subjects to talk about here, but I kind of tease the audience on this. I want to talk with them and with you about this new synthetic life form that could spell a whole big change for mankind. And this is really going to get scary, because if this thing happens, I mean, we had enough with the COVID vaccines and all the, things that go into some of these vaccines. My goodness. And by the way, folks, we're going to have a young lady in a couple of weeks who's going to call us from Switzerland. She's written the most extensive book. I don't have it in front of me, but it's every vaccine that's ever been produced since day one. And she, as a biochemist, is going to give us her analysis of why she thinks, obviously, so much of this is of concern and should be a concern. Look at all the people that died from COVID, the vaccine itself. It's a very, very hot topic. But, Patrick, give us a tease on that. I mean, what is this whole synthetic life form, just to give us an idea?
Well, I will. The genetic scientists at this point, they're all unplugged, in my opinion, but they've basically taken on the task of modifying all genetic life on the planet. I'm talking everything, including humans, but all the animals, grasses, crops, field crops, the pigs, the cattle, the turkeys, the chickens, stuff that we eat, right? The corn.
Yep, you're right.
Everything at this point has been GMO. That's the term we use, genetically modified organism. And they're not satisfied with this at this point, but they're extending their theories to create synthetic life form that is so otherworldly that some scientists who have their heads screwed on right are saying, you guys need to stop this immediately. Don't go there.
Well, that's exactly what I have to do to you right now, loving you as a brother here and a good friend. We have to stop the conversation for now as we run out of time at the top of the first hour, ladies and gentlemen. But more with Patrick Wood, ladies and gentlemen. Technocracy.news. Check his website out. So many of the subjects that we cover here are in much greater depth, as you would imagine, on his website. And folks, if you have concerns and questions, we always talk about those 4 types of conversation: debate, discourse, diatribe, dialogue. We love dialogue, and we love that. And we love it in critical thinking. But, if you disagree, you can disagree too. This is not we don't force you to do anything, but it's 1-800-848-9222 for the Dr. Sky Experience. And as also, ladies and gentlemen, as we get through this particular time in our lives, talking about where we find or should have some sort of limits on this whole surveillance subject. And I don't mean to sound naive. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. We look forward to you, ladies and gentlemen, and continuing here on the Dr. Sky Experience on the other side of the news on Talk Radio 77 WABC.
The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
At 5 minutes after the hour, we come on the air with important information, as you tell us, ladies and gentlemen. Hour number 2 of the Dr. Sky Experience continues. If you'd like to get in on the conversation in the form of dialogue, we love that with critical thinking. It's 1-800-848-9222. Our special guest, as we continue to move through time and space, is Patrick Wood. He's an author, and his website is technocracy.news. He speaks about the subjects of transhumanism and the dangers of technocracy. But before that, we promised the audience in every one of our radio shows a brief sky update. That is the core of why we do this radio show. Great information, as you tell us, from the realms of astronomy, space, aviation, weather, as we move on with celebrity guests and American exceptionalism. If you have an email that you'd like to send for maybe possible future guests that you recommend, we're always open to that suggestion. The email is just drsky@wabcradio.com, of course. And a special shout-out to our navigators, as we call them, the helmsmen, both Tony and Bill, behind the scenes, making sure that this signal is reaching all over the place, and I'm sure deep out into the cosmos. Ladies and gentlemen, 1-800-848-9222 gets you on the air. But our sky update as we move into September is brief. If you're on the other side of the world and you still have time to travel, a total lunar eclipse will take place on the morning of September the 7th, Sunday. For other parts of the Earth, it'll be on the 8th, but unfortunately not visible in the Western Hemisphere. A most amazing event. But for all of us, within the sound of our voice on this side of the world, the full corn moon is adorning our skies. That officially occurs on Sunday. And then we find out something else happening. A partial solar eclipse, unfortunately not visible from the United States, but other parts of the world, like the South Pacific, New Zealand, and Antarctica, a partial solar eclipse. When there's a total eclipse of the moon, there usually is, about 2 weeks later, a partial eclipse or a total eclipse of the sun. Interesting information. As we move through time and space, we continue with our special guest, Patrick Wood, moving back to the subjects at hand. Patrick, this is fascinating. You were talking with us about synthetic life forms, and that could spell disaster for humankind. It's officially called, as you write in this article, mirror life DNA. Apparently, DNA, and I'm not a biochemist, has a right-handed twist, but now some scientists are trying to give it a left-handed twist. And that, by the way, has nothing to do with politics, ladies and gentlemen, not to be funny. What the heck is that whole thing? I mean, that sounds like a Frankenstein thing. It's just weird.
It really does. There's already some research going on for medical products, especially peptides, that they're making these peptides with a reverse spin, if you will, on the DNA that they contain. Well, the reason they're doing this is because the mirror life isn't detected by your immune system, so it can't be like attacked by your immune system. So they're thinking, well, if we could just get a drug that has this in it, we don't have to worry about a patient's immune system attacking our drug, right?
Yes.
Well, this kind of makes sense on the surface, but you don't want stuff introduced in your body that can't be detected by your immune system. That's why we have an immune system in the first place. We want it operating. If something isn't supposed to be there, we want it want to get rid of it, right?
Yes.
So these scientists at this point, they've some of them have teamed up against this group that are trying to advance this science, a mirror life, to other organisms other than bacteria or just peptides. And people are really concerned. The scientists are getting concerned. And even though there hasn't been a big breakthrough at this point, they think maybe 5-10 years they will. But at this point, they're saying this is so bad, this type of research just needs to stop immediately and just don't go there.
Well, didn't they say the same thing about the mutation strains of different, viruses that happened in the Wuhan lab or whatever happened over there? Who knows? But you're messing around with something that you may let the monster out of the box. This is interesting, Patrick. On a sci-fi side, I'm a big sci-fi fan. Maybe many listeners, of course, are there. Maybe you are. But one of the sequels to the Alien movies, very interesting movies, about this, amazing creature. It's horrible, but it's almost like a perfect species out there, the alien itself. The movie, the Prometheus, without spoiling the movie for everybody, is interesting because it talks about something called black goo. And what is it? It's something called an organic mutagen, and it's a life-creating catalyst that could also be used as a bioweapon. So these engineers, which look like these big, tall giants, they apparently had created this whole alien civilization in the sci-fi world. But that, not to sound silly, to me, that was such an interesting thing because it's similar to the things that we're trying to do here, as you're describing, messing around with nature in a way that may not necessarily have a good outcome, right?
Exactly.
Totally amazing. Yeah, that's an interesting thing. 1-800-848-9222, ladies and gentlemen, subject matter that's on the table, if you're just joining us right now. Patrick Wood of Technocracy.news. He's a regular guest here discussing that, is technocracy and, of course, transhumanism. And how about this one? This is all about you and your articles. The recent meeting over there in China with President Xi, Putin, and Kim. I can't believe what I'm about to report, and you can go into details. They're walking and talking about the concept of immortality. Is that what I'm getting from all this? That's insane.
That's exactly right.
Or is it insane? Stuff. Right.
Yeah, I know. They apparently all these people over there, the leaders, are all transhumanists. They want to extend their life and they want to live forever if they could, I guess. And it's interesting that the leader of China talked about the concept of using human organs to extend your life, and said, well, we could just get more organ transplants, and we could have a happy life, I guess.
Yeah.
So, people have
happy
criticized
life, right.
China. They've criticized China against organ harvesting, if you will, from healthy people. And who knows? I think it does go on, but it's been a subject of it's been talked about. Put it that way.
Well, it's a very dangerous subject.
We have Kim and Xi and Putin walking along almost hand in hand. So doesn't that remind you of a joke? I like a priest, a rabbi, whatever, and a lawyer walked into a bar, But this is stranger than fiction. It's not a joke at all. People really mean it.
Yeah. No, it's amazing stuff. I don't know if you heard during the news break there, but it was reported, and again, I was hearing it loud and clear, just like we were talking about. The concern in the gubernatorial race in New Jersey has a lot to do, of course, with the whole thing of, electricity and all the rates that are going on there. So that's now moved from a back burner to a front and center, which is very, very interesting here with the whole concept that you're talking about these AI. I still don't understand this. I see them as I drive around here in Arizona, in Phoenix particularly, and other people see them. I mean, these gigantic facilities, they look like the size of an aircraft carrier, And we can only imagine, and you've told us, megawatts of power being induced into these places. And also what, Patrick, a tremendous overage of water, a precious commodity, especially out here in the West.
Exactly. Yeah, there are no respecters of the rights that we have for our water. Our water table is dropping like a rock at this point because a lot of the water we have is pumped out of the ground. And, we're headed for disaster probably at some point. That doesn't bother these people, however.
Well, it sure concerns us, and I'm sure many of the listeners around the nation and around the world. Folks, far and reaching with the power of this radio station. I'm sure there's somebody out there. And we always appeal to the truck drivers, the men and women who provide us with all the goods, that we take maybe many of us for granted, to the stores that we have. And they're out there, the big warriors of the night. They bring us the goods that we need. Maybe they're out there who have concerns. And again, it's 1-800-848-9222. Whether you're listening to us on all these different, exotic forms of communication, we, of course, are proud to have this powerful signal broadcast to you. So if you have concerns out there, let's hear from people, maybe some new callers out there, too, as much as we respect our regular callers here. But what's interesting, Patrick, let's talk about something on the lighter side, but it also has serious consequences. Things about changing children's minds and rewiring children's minds with AI, the AI toy agenda. Wow, I never thought I'd ever even be talking about this. You're on stage. Tell us about this.
Oh, boy. Well, OpenAI, that's the big, AI company that's run by Sam Altman. It's the biggest in the country right now. Mm-hmm. They have huge products, and everybody's using it around the world and stuff. Well, apparently Sam Altman thinks that he's not getting enough money from subscription income.
Sure.
He's partnered now with Mattel, the giant toy maker, to use AI in kids' toys. You just imagine that your kid now, 5-year-old kid or whatever, all of a sudden he has a toy that can be a companion and talk back to him. And, hey, how you doing today, little Johnny, or whatever, And yes. The kid can just tell the toy his troubles. Well, my mommy gave me a spanking or something or whatever. And, this is the threat here is literally it's going to rewire kids' brains. They can't process this type of interactions. They need to be involved with adults and other kids of their age. If the AI toys only want to tell them what they want to hear, they'll never get a taste of what life is all about.
So little girls and little boys would have a AI Barbie or an AI Ken, and that to me seems a little bit difficult to swallow. But then again, I mean, let's also be fair to the entire subject here, Patrick. We may have in the future, and proud to say it, some guests that will talk about the science of AI, and maybe there certainly are, many good things that people could talk about with AI, and not to take away from your themes here. I mean, there's another side to this story that we always want to give a fair and open, idea here to give everybody a chance to make up their mind. But that does have concerns to me too. I don't have children, but if I did, I'd be watching very closely. What is the background purpose of this toy? What's it doing? You've described it. It's taking away that human interaction that most people they need. Everybody needs it, right?
Well, they need it, exactly, especially young children. The children are always the ones that get beat up first, Mm-hmm. They can't defend themselves. They have no say in anything because they don't vote. So for some reason, all of these technocrats and other people as well, I suppose, they gang up on the kids. And, think of all the kids that got destroyed during COVID, for instance, that wore a mask when they couldn't see people's faces and you read the lips and, have normal interactions with people. Even their parents, their parents' faces were hidden from them. And kids need this type of interaction. You can't just muzzle them like that. Well, This is just kind of like that in a sense. This is probably worse, but
I know you have to be parents. Look, people, hopefully, when they're listening to this, I mean, if you're a parent out there, obviously valuable information, excuse me, that you can choose exactly how you want to move forward. But you're lighting up the phone lines, Patrick, as I would expect, like a laser light show. So let's say good morning to Steve in Arizona. We lost you before. Good morning. You're on with Patrick Wood. How are you?
Thank you, Dr. Sky, and your guest, Patrick Wood. Thank you very much. You know, let's turn the conversation around and let's see how AI can protect our kids, see how AI can reduce our energy requirements for the grid. Let's see how AI can reduce our power or our water usage. That kind of dialogue is also very useful and I believe needed. So I'll just stop it right there.
Good point.
I totally agree with you. The scientists that are in the world today, if they would take their eyes off of the control grid, they probably can solve these types of problems with the existing AI as it is right now, not a future AI. They probably could solve so many problems, but no, they're taking after. They're concerned about global warming. Having an answer for global warming. How about just doing practical things with it, like you just said? What a novel concept! I think that's a great idea.
Steve, you get the last word as we move forward with a very, very crowded and very generous opportunity here to listen to what you have to say, Patrick. Steve, you get the last word on this.
Well, I think AI is not only a problem, but a problem solver. And I think we need to know how to use the tool wisely, and I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you, Steve in Arizona. We appreciate you. And the interesting thing, as I mentioned before, we will have, and I know Patrick would agree to this, and he would salute it wholeheartedly and embrace it, we'll have the other side of this conversation, not in the form of a debate, ladies and gentlemen, but there are some things out there that people need to know so we do understand what's really happening. Let's continue on with the phone calls. Let's say good morning to Alexi in Queens. Good morning, Alexi. You're on with Patrick Wood. How you doing?
Good morning, Dr. Sky. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, sir. Loud and clear.
Good. I am from communist bloc country. I come here almost 20 years ago.
Yes, sir.
I'm older adult, much older. And in my country, same thing. We have people, the police, they go out and they take people and say, look, we are going to make you like this. Mm-hmm. Give you a notebook, and what you are going to do is you are going to go through community, talk to people, and you are gaining information. Mm-hmm. And if they question you, you show them this badge. They gave them, I am telling you the truth, they gave them this special identification where the people were, you're from police, so I have to talk to you,
Yes.
The same thing here, but there is no person doing it. It is done electronically. You remember about 15 years, maybe more ago, they have this thing put in house called Alexa,
yes.
Amazon.
They're everywhere, yes.
Yeah. But these things are very dangerous because this is Orwellian. This is like Orwell, the 1984 thing. My fear is that if you have a mistake, if somebody makes a mistake, a sincere mistake or something, they can turn this into something and say, well, your actions are not acceptable. If you're doing this in China already, mm-hmm. Everybody has quality. You have to be a certain place, certain time. If you are not, you are subject to penalty. These AI towers that you speak of, these big buildings, these are harvesting so much data on the American public, everybody, that
Alexi,
the capacity is beyond belief.
No, you're right, my friend.
Very dangerous.
Not to ask you what country you hail from, but to say this, you understand better, in your words, not mine, the value of freedom. I mean, it's just like night and day, right? But the point I'm hearing from you, and I want Patrick to respond, is the fact that look at what's happening to us, not necessarily in communist countries, but here in America, it's coming to us like a sugar-coated version, like you talk about these different Alexas, and I don't want to say it too loud because the one I have in the back room here is probably already recording my conversation. Go ahead there, Patrick. I mean, we have Alexi here, and, you know, wouldn't you agree that it's the greatest country on earth here, but let's not lose that by going off into doing things like communist countries did, where they're surveilling everything you do, and you didn't do anything wrong, let's say. We can't tolerate that.
I've said for a long time, 15 years, that the dark horse of globalization is not communism, socialism, or fascism. It's technocracy.
Wow.
And the idea of a scientific dictatorship where everything is controlled by algorithm, this is far worse than communism, if believe it or not. But just think about it. Even in a communist country, there's vulnerabilities where people can be exposed, leaders can be exposed. You get there's revolutions will take them out and, hang them or run them off or whatever. This has happened in many countries around the world. You can't get your hands around AI at this point. No, who are you going to call?
That's right.
You can't,
well, it's real simple. If you never knew the rights you had, you'll never know what rights you lost. And the whole concept, Alexi, you get the last word because you're spot on. I mean, look at what's happening here. Everything seems to be building these incredible databases. And I wonder, for what the heck purpose? I'm not naive. I mean, I understand this. And in the better way, Alexi, our good friend Patrick, he's been telling us it's called total information awareness, a fancy word for what? Yes. Overt surveillance. Alexi? Yes, last word you got before we close out the half hour.
Yes. Okay. I put it simply to you. What I went through in my country, what my father went through, this is nightmare. This is nightmare. Mm-hmm. The point is, in America, the Constitution say, fourth provision say, search and seizure with warrant. What you do is, if you are violated, you sue. You go to federal court, you go to state court, you sue these people, you sue them for $10 million. That's the only relief you can get, is to get compensated, because a judge is supposed to be impartial, maybe he will rule for you. Mm-hmm. But I tell you this, if this momentum keeps up with the AI, we are going to have a nightmare of such size in this country very soon, maybe 2-3 years, when Trump is ready to go. And when Trump goes, we are finished.
Wow. Well, Alexi, I appreciate your commentary. I just hope it's on the positive side. But, hey, I'm a realist too, my friend. That's why we're doing shows like this. And if people are wondering if you're way off your subject when we talk about space and the finite and infinite universe, we also mention that we talk about American exceptionalism and bring the subject matters to the table here. Because what better way to spend the weekend, not just with myself, what about all the other great hosts that are here on Talk Radio 77 WABC, talking about truth, justice, and the American way. Alexi, hope you have a good weekend, and shut off any of those surveillance devices that you might have anywhere near you, and have a good weekend. Thanks for being part of the show. Patrick, interesting. I mean, when a man comes from a communist country, and he's testifying about this, see, I've never been in a communist country to live there. I don't know if you have, but, well, think of how things would be different if we come here and we see a better place, but we don't have it if we can't keep it. And who said that better?
You're
Benjamin Franklin.
Right. I'm so glad that we have a caller. He might be the best caller today so far.
Well, I think you're right. If we were giving away little prizes, maybe we should find a way to get some prizes. And no, seriously, we don't rate the callers. No, I agree with you in just simple human terms. That's a great call from Alexi to talk about what's really coming down the pipeline, because only those people who knew what it was like on the other side have to be able to, not convince us, but that's what's going on over here.
He's an eyewitness.
Folks, if you're still on the line waiting to get on here as we approach the hard break in just a moment here, it's 1-800-848-9222. If you're just joining us, our special guest to the top of hour number 2 is, of course, Patrick Wood. His website, technocracy.news. We say go there because there's so much information there that we don't have time for in radio shows like this. And again, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any information that you'd like to share with me, I've actually gotten some guests from all of you folks out there, and we appreciate everything that you can contribute here to all these subject matters. My email, and I always read them all, is drsky@wabcradio.com. And with that, Patrick, let's continue for the next After the Hard Break with some other exciting information to open our minds about not only the wonders of the universe, but things that are going right below our feet and around here in our world that we take for granted, maybe, as we continue with the Dr. Sky Experience. We'll be right back.
The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dr. Sky Experience. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Extraordinary technology brings extraordinary recklessness. Author unknown. A tribute to Dr. Edgar Mitchell that you just heard, ladies and gentlemen. His statement to me a long time ago as he's passed on to the infinite was this. I meant a question. I asked him a question. I said, Dr. Mitchell, on the surface of the moon, when you and Alan Shepard walked, what did it look like if you looked toward the Earth from the lunar surface? And he said, and I quote, the Earth appears 4 times the diameter of the largest full moon you've ever seen here on planet number 3. A tribute to Dr. Edgar Mitchell. 32 minutes after the hour, we continue to the top of hour number 2. Our special guest, and if you're just joining us, is Patrick Wood. He, of course, gives us so much information, and that's why we have him as a regular guest here. Patrick, some of these subjects I think are just so fascinating, as we heard from Alexei, talking about what it's like to live in another country that doesn't share freedom, but this overt surveillance that you're talking about with total information awareness, it is very concerning, and that's why we have you here. Let's go to the callers and continue on. If we have Glenn in New Jersey. Good morning, Glenn. Thank you for being patient. Your question or comment?
Yes, the electric bills here in New Jersey are too high. They're too high now. And my wife's upset. So much so that she's burying light bulbs in the garden, hoping to grow her own power plant.
Hey, I'll tell you, folks, ladies and gentlemen, that's amazing. We always got a funny guy here on the radio show, and that's an interesting bit of observation there. Very well done, my friend. But, Patrick, isn't that amazing? You can plant light bulbs in the yard. How about that? Very interesting. So let's talk more about this whole subject that we're going down the path here about technology and technocracy. Yeah. Let's talk about this thing of transhumanism. I mean, this bothers me more, and both subjects are interesting, and I'm sure to the listeners. But this whole transhumanism thing, I mean, what we described it before, and I think we probably need a refresh on this whole thing. You know, go back to the description of technocracy, because I want people to hear this and absorb it like it comes right through the airwaves, loud and clear.
Well, technocracy was invented at Columbia University in 1932. It was an economic system designed to replace capitalism and free enterprise. And they wanted to erase all property rights. They wanted to erase all the political system altogether. And they wanted the president of the country at that point, it was FDR just coming in 1933, they wanted him to dismiss Congress and simply appoint technocrats top to bottom to run the country. Mm-hmm. Without any political system or any political discourse whatsoever. This was rejected, obviously, by the American people by the time mid-40s came along. But this idea never quit, and it just kept coming back. And now we're dealing with it today. With things like sustainable development, with like the 2030 agenda from the United Nations, with the likes of the World Economic Forum saying you own nothing and be happy. This is the same philosophy that came out of Columbia University almost 100 years ago.
Well, I respect Alexei in Queens before, of course, when giving us his analysis from communism to what's happening here. But I want to give people the positivity, too. I mean, we don't be doom and gloom. And certainly I'm not accusing you of that. You're just giving us facts here. And they're very important facts. But on the positive side, let's go to that. I mean, what can people actually do from Patrick Wood here that maybe brightens up their day in a world that we keep hearing about all this control and all this overt surveillance? Give us just something of positivity here.
Well, number one, get your mind off of all of this stuff and go hug somebody that you love. That's the first thing. Get a connection with real people, would you?
Patrick, that's probably the best thing I've heard all week from anybody. That's it. I met a young lady she's a young lady in her 80s, and she was standing there, and she was walking with a cane. And I said, "Excuse me, ma'am." I said, "Can I help you, move to the car?" Because she had groceries. And I'm just being the kind of guy that I am, like other people. So I looked at her, and she was describing how she can't see. And I says, "My gosh," I said, "I would have no idea what that would be like." So I looked at her, and I said, "You know what?" I said, "Can I give you a hug?" And the lady looked at me, and boy, you tell you, I felt good, and so did she. That you're right. Just a little love out there, hey? How about that? Wouldn't that be wonderful?
No kidding.
Hey, I'm not that special, but what you're saying is very special. But let's continue with the callers, because they rule here on this particular radio station. Let's say good morning to Diana in Brooklyn. You're on with Patrick Wood. How are you this morning?
Hello, good morning. I'm enjoying your discourse. I feel that you're adding the element of love. Well, to apply with that is one could note a sense of wonder. Like, you were speaking about children and these toys. Well, for one thing, too many toys cause mental illness, I believe. I sincerely believe. Okay. But if you're lucky to grow up the way I did with Laura Ingalls Wilder books and all of her books, and just walking on the plains and looking at the flowers and the gophers, and you want to have a sense of wonder that you can engender into the child. Like, they have to learn to read some of these great books. Laura Ingalls Wilder just shaped my entire childhood.
Boy, Diana, you say it very well, because exactly that, reading. And not necessarily just the classics. I mean, they can get so detailed that maybe we don't understand the old way of how things were written. But you're so right in the simplest way. I mean, that brought you to what? A happiness moment and a positivity. And that's what's so important, right, Diana?
She was there. She was there at that time when they were settling the area, coming from Europe, and they were settling. And it's just her whole, the way she documents growing up. It's just when there's a great writer. Mm-hmm. I don't think these technocracy people are artists. But when there's an artful writer, it engenders something special in the child. I'm just saying, you need to read great books, as you said, And if children could have that second look, if they could be able to look at themselves that way with another greater sense of wonder, maybe they would keep it in perspective and not be so intimidated.
Yes. You bring up some good points, Diana. Yeah, you do. You bring up some positivity. See, now, Patrick, she's another bright light here discussing things that on the positivity side. Patrick, your response to Diana, please.
I like that idea. I had all of the Hardy Boys books, a whole series of books when I was young. I can't remember how many there were. We had bookshelves of these books, and everyone has a mystery. And I love to read those at night, especially before bed and stuff like that. This ignited my imagination.
Yes.
There's no substitute for that kind of exercise. Reading develops your brain, your creativity, your sense of wonder, your sense of imagination. This is gone today. Kids don't want to read books. They don't want to do anything other than stare at a screen. And it's very dangerous for the psychology and just for their mental health in general. And I can't agree more with that caller. Can't.
Well, Diana, I appreciate you bringing some positivity to the show here. The name Diana, as you probably know better, is what? She's the goddess of the moon. And that's interesting. And she's also the huntress. But I appreciate you, Diana. You get the last word on this very important conversation.
Well, it's just that if parents can have a little more guidance and really understand that they need to nurture the child with reading, literary suits. You know, I mean, my father would always say, you can't turn the boob tube on. You have to go in your room and read a book. You know, like, we didn't ever read. We didn't watch television. Never. You know.
You bet.
Yeah, read a book.
Diana, thanks for being part of the show. No, I appreciate you. You know, that's why you say we don't want to talk all this negativity stuff. We want to provide, and the callers are doing it, Patrick. And close, you know, you're giving us some good suggestions.
You bet.
Diana, I hope you'll continue to be part of our Dr. Sky experience here on this radio station. And thank you. Even though I'm sitting out here in Arizona, I'm a native New Yorker. I was born in Jamaica, Queens, and hey, my roots are still there, and love all the folks that are part of this experience. So thank you for being there. Appreciate your time. Patrick, this is amazing. See, we're getting some positivity here. You're right. Reading, you know, children. Read to the children. That's interesting. Imagine. Yeah. I remember my parents did that, and I don't have children, but I would certainly spend time with anybody else's child that, you know, wants to talk about a little experience with a book or so and just show them a little kindness. How about that?
You bet.
It's interesting. Well, Patrick, before we run out of time here, let's say good morning to Joaquin in the Keystone State of Pennsylvania. Good morning, Joaquin. How are you? Good to hear from you.
Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning, Stephen. Good morning, Patrick. I'm sitting here, I'm chuckling to myself because I guess you could say that you just put the angel of darkness on the phone. Because I was doing some looking before I came on. And so I had heard that Peter Thiel was behind J.D. Vance. And apparently, yes, Peter Thiel was J.D. Vance's mentor, and actually, J.D. Vance worked for him for a while. Don't
Didn't know
what the
that.
name of the company was, you know.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, no, I just looked that up, and of course, he's behind Donald Trump, and there's a number of people that are, you know, associated with him that are in Trump's cabinet. Now, the thing of it is that I'm sure you are aware that I'm a 110% Donald Trump supporter, you know.
Got it. Mm-hmm.
And believe me, I enjoyed Alexi's call there, and also, too, the one that called previous that spoke about, you know, the 65 Immigration Act, that this country is actually being turned into a third world country. And quite frankly, I believe that we're being deliberately Islamicized because I've done my share of research into Islam. And so, but it's unfortunate, you know, that Peter Thiel also seems to be associated. He was one of the World Economic Forum's, Klaus Schwab's young world leaders, you know. So when I saw that kind of...
Well, Joaquin, you always bring insightful commentary here. We're up against the break here, and I hate to cut anybody short, but Patrick, you got about a minute. Joaquin, thank you. I hope you'll continue to be part of the conversation in the future, but your points are well taken. Patrick, we got about a minute, and your response to Joaquin.
He's absolutely right. Peter Thiel is a snake, and he's a member of the steering committee, by the way, of the Bilderberg Group in Europe. That's the elitist group that meets every year. They said it's a discussion group, but, you know, they make deals for sure. And the CEO of Palantir, that's Peter Thiel's company, he's also on the steering committee of the Bilderberg. These people have a huge impact around the world, and they're latched onto Donald Trump at this point. So go figure.
That's amazing.
I know. I don't think anybody in the MAGA movement had a clue where we were going since Trump got in office. So, you know, everybody's scratching their head, just wondering what happened. What happened?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, more with Patrick Wood after we continue our last break of this particular 2-hour radio show, the Dr. Sky Experience. More when we come back. We've got a lot of other subjects, and still, ladies and gentlemen, time for you to get in on the conversation. 1-800-848-9222. That's the gateway to get in with what we like, dialogue. And we're sure having it, right, Patrick, on this particular iteration of the Dr. Sky Experience. We'll be right back.
The Dr. Sky Experience on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dr. Sky Experience. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Hard to believe, ladies and gentlemen, from, quote, unknown. And we want to thank the band Foreigner, one of the great rock bands in history, very close to that rock band over the years, and they continue with their tour as they close out their incredible career, and we thank them from all of you to all of us. 48 minutes after the hour, Patrick Wood continues with us. Patrick, are there subjects that we might have missed here? But to give you the time to do that, I want to welcome Christine in Manhattan. She's been patient and waiting. Good morning. You're on with Patrick
Good
Wood.
morning. Thank you for taking my call.
Yes,
it was fascinating that you brought up the Bilderberg Group. They were founded in 1954 by Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands, of the Saxe-Coburg-Gotha background. And he was a high-ranking Nazi during World War II under Hitler. That's history. But he died a couple of years ago. And I believe since then, other power groups have come in, like the European Economic Forum. This is the same group of royals. There's like 15 families in Europe, royal families that are all related, plus the international bankers, blah, blah, blah. And these people, as far as I know, they seem to be control freaks. That's the problem. So there's nothing they would love better than to snooker in with Donald Trump and try to sabotage that.
Wow, Christine, you bring up some good subjects. Patrick, wow, what's there to say? I mean, a lot of things. This is
a great caller for sure. The Bilderberg Group has been behind many, many things over the years, including the Trilateral Commission, what was founded in 1973 by David Rockefeller and Zbigniew Brzezinski. Before they founded the Trilateral Commission, they went to the Bilderberg Group in 72 to kind of ask, they bounced it off. I wouldn't say they asked permission, but they bounced it off the group there. And they all said, hey, we're right behind you. Go do this thing and do their new international economic order thing. And the rest is history at this point. So the Bilderberg has been a steering committee for just about everything that's nefarious in this century. It's been a credible ride. And these people have, you're right, they're absolute control freaks.
Wow, Christine. Let me ask you, Christine, if you're still with us, what compels you to be interested so much in this subject? I mean, a little bit about your background, if you don't mind sharing that with us. Tell us.
I was also a member of Mensa, and I was asked by Mensa, offered a chance to be on their part of their controlling committee or their board of directors, which I didn't accept. But I'm interested in people. I study anthropology. I study people, the living planet, and when I see stuff like this, I realize how incredibly dangerous it is. But I had a strange interview right before Donald Trump got elected. I was having coffee in my neighborhood, and a guy sat down next to me who was from Holland. Apparently he was a negotiator in the United Nations. And he told me that if Trump gets elected, it will be a disaster for the world. Little did he know that I was praying for Trump to get elected, and that I knew damn well what evil has come out of Holland.
Well, Christine, I hate to cut you short. We're getting a pretty loud feedback for the audience that they probably can't hear you clearly, but your conversational points are so much spot on, and really, we do appreciate you, and so does Patrick, and hope you'll stay with us in future editions of the Dr. Sky Experience. Thank you for being with us, Christine. You know, you hate to cut people off like this, but unfortunately, I think that was like a reverb I'm getting, maybe like a speakerphone or something like that. But anyway, Patrick, I know we don't have much more time to cover this, but I want to mention again, technocracy.news. You can get so much information there, ladies and gentlemen, very important. And I do appreciate you being here on this radio show, so we look forward to the next month. But I also want to kind of segue to tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. The owner and operator of this radio station, John Catsimatidis and family, have been kind enough to offer me the opportunity to do this Friday, as many of you do know, of course, by listening, midnight, Friday Eastern Time to 2 a.m. on Saturday mornings, and then again back on Saturday, midnight to 2 a.m. Sunday mornings. And we do appreciate that greatly. So many topics, but just a look-see to tomorrow's program, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have somebody very special also, like all of our guests. We're going to have Dr. Gerta Keller, a Ph.D. She's a paleontologist and a geologist from Princeton University. Her brand new book, The Last Extinction. From the astronomy side, we may have heard, and it's accurate, that there was an asteroidal impact in the area of Mexico called Chicxulub. And some of the theories went that that was the extinctive part that made the dinosaurs go away, extinction. Her theory is quite different, and we'll share that with you in her interview as we continue. And then also, Patrick, I'm sure you'd respect this, a gentleman who is a PhD in science. He worked with the government for so long, Dr. Patrick Nunnally. He's going to come on and talk about some of the benefits that we've had from the concept of AI. And he was also responsible, ladies and gentlemen, for the development of Arbitron, one of the systems, of course, of ratings in the media. Very interesting guy to talk about some of that. But Patrick, you get the last word. Give us some, insight and some inspiration on some of these topics. And appreciate your time. So go ahead.
Well, you bet. I want just to encourage people to make connections with the people around you. Forget the electronic stuff for a minute. Build human relationships, because this is what that AI is driving out of society, the human touch, if you will. That's so important. Secondly, I want to encourage people to get involved with their city council, their city manager, and the people in the various boards on the communities. These are the people that live with you. They're your neighbors, and they would probably be happy to hear from you if you would go and give them a little education about the things we're talking about. But it's not going to do any good to talk about Washington, D.C. at this point, at least for solutions, because you can't change that. But you certainly can change your city and your town by appealing to your leaders to protect you and to do stuff that will protect you and your community and your children, etc. So,
you're right, Patrick. I don't talk about it much on this particular show, but the honest truth of the matter is, it's very interesting. All politics is local, and I think you just surmised it and said, hey, if you want to get involved to try to change things, that's the way to do it. Let's go to one of our last callers. We're trying to squeeze in everybody here, and let's see if we can get them on. Let's say good morning to Eduardo, who's calling us from the great state of Florida. Good morning, Eduardo. How are you?
Yeah, thank you for squeezing me in, and hello, Patrick. My question is regarding AR as far as the medical industry, especially with all these diseases like measles and even COVID coming back. And by the way, I did work an election judge for a city council seat that's unfortunate from a death that came upon Gwyneth Henderson here in Tampa, Florida. So you're right about that. It's good to get involved locally and address these issues to your local, but not so much paying so much attention to what's happening in D.C. You're right about that.
Wow. We appreciate that, Eduardo. But, Patrick, that's exactly what you're talking about. Get involved at the local level and do something.
Exactly.
Right. Don't let other people take charge of this. And, I know, again, I'm not talking politics on my program with the intensity that other group hosts do on this station. But the point is, precinct committeeman, you can become a precinct committee woman. Get involved whichever side of the coin you want to be on, but obviously may the best team win, and you can't do it unless you get involved, right?
Exactly so, yeah.
Eduardo, if you're still with us, your final comment here. We still have a minute or two. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for bringing this, because I'm very nervous about the future as far as how many people will actually stay employed due to this AI revolution. So we'll see. We'll hope for the best.
Well, absolutely, Eduardo. Good morning to you, and I hope you'll be joining us more on the Dr. Sky Experience.
Definitely.
Thanks for your time. Appreciate it, sir. Yeah, that's it, Patrick. This is a great conversation that we have with you, and we'll look at the schedule for the month of October, and hopefully you're available. But you do a lot of public speaking and seminars in about a minute or two. How else can people get involved? I mean, there's other things that you have on your website. You can go to what you call, boot camp, too. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. If you go to technocracy.news, you'll see on the top right corner a great brochure that we're offering right now. I just got these back from the printer called the Technocracy brochure. That's what we're calling it. But this is something that you can hand to people and get them educated on technocracy in like 60 seconds. This is going to hopefully appeal to people who never even heard the word before. But then, on the other hand, we have the Technocracy Boot Camp, which literally is a boot camp, but I narrated myself 25 hours or so of e-learning. Take it at your own pace, and you'll come away with not a degree in technocracy. There's no college here, but you'll be well versed to understand technocracy from A to Z.
Patrick Wood, your pleasure, and always you're welcome here behind this particular radio show and with this radio show. Technocracy.news. Thank you. We hope to get in touch with you, and we'll schedule you as we both can figure out the dates and times. And thank you. Now we turn and pass the torch of knowledge and dialogue to TJ McCormick for The Other Side of Midnight. And a special shout out to Tony and Bill, who navigate this 50,000-watt bigger radio signal than you've probably ever heard, ladies and gentlemen. Talk Radio 77 WABC. From me to all of you, clear skies, health, and happiness, and we'll do it again on the Dr. Sky Experience. Have a great morning.
Thanks for listening to the Dr. Sky Experience. You can hear the Dr. Sky Experience Saturday mornings, midnight to 2 a.m. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social, on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?